Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Psychedelic Today webinar. This is produced with Vital because we are celebrating two of our alumni from previous cohorts. From cohort one, we have Emefa Boama. Hey, Emefa.
Hi, everyone.
And from cohort two, we've got Bill Anthes. Good to see you, Bill.
Great to see you as well.
So we've got an hour to chat about your lives, Bill and Emefa, personal and professionally, how your careers have evolved and why you've kind of driven them as leaders in the direction that you have. We also want to hear about your experiences in Vital, our 12-month certificate in integrative psychedelic studies. And then at the end of our webinar, we're going to have time to talk Q&A style with the three of us. So definitely pop any questions you have into the Q&A box on the bottom. And this will be recorded for our YouTube channel. So you can always go to Psychedelics Today on YouTube and watch the recording there. So before I jump in, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about Vital. Why is it such an amazing experience, in my opinion? And then, yeah, Bill and Emefa will share their experiences on the other side. So I'm a teacher in Vital. I'm one of the study group instructors each week, teaching my small pod of students with a co-instructor. I also teach one of the electives in the summer about regenerative business and leadership. I'm also a student of Vital because I've just learned so much about the world of integrative psychedelics, particularly somatics and depth kind of Jungian psychology, and more about indigenous traditions as well. Those have been three of my main areas I've learned about in the last 3 years. And something that I love the most about Vital, if I had to say it is our students. And one of the reasons we believe the world needs change, and it's not people at the top who are going to give it, and we can't wait for them to give it to us. So we have to make it, we have to build it. And it has something to do with wellness, mental health, families, relationships, ourself, our heart, and our bodies, and being more somatically informed, feeling good inside. So that's wellness. And we believe that giving this kind of training to students around the world is literally the best way of building change and making something new be born from people like Bill and Emefa. And so we want to hear today about their stories. What's it like being a change maker? What's easy? What's difficult? So we're going to really dig into it today. A little bit of information. If you are thinking about joining us in Vital, there is still time. So I'll just pop in the chat box. The website is vitalpsychedelictraining.com. And we just extended the deadline till September the 3rd to apply. That's Tuesday. The actual course starts Tuesday, the 17th of September. And a couple of new things since Bill and Emefa were students back in the old days. This year, we're introducing two new things. One is called specialization pathways. So students will choose one of 5 options as a specialization topic to kind of major their graduation certificate in. So those are regenerative business economics, like I said, regenerative business and leadership, microdosing, Jungian and depth psychology, spiritual emergence, and somatics and trauma. So one of those 5, every student will specialize in. And then the second thing we've introduced is for up to 20 students, they can join an add-on experience, which is a mentorship program. So meeting up every month for 12 months and having 3 one-to-one sessions, being part of a circle group and a WhatsApp group, really helping each other and from an enrichment mentoring perspective, build your vision. So that's what we're doing. All right. So welcome, everybody. It's really good to be here. I'm going to start off, I think, with Emefa, because you were in our first ever cohort of Vital. So it's really good to see it. Really is. We've done, you've been on our podcast before. And it's really good to have you here. So I'm going to read out your bio, and then I'm going to just hand it over to you to tell folks what I missed, and particularly the projects you're currently working on and the things that are really kind of singing in your heart and soul right now, Emefa. So Emefa Boama is a spiritual guide, intuitive embodiment facilitator, and somatic business mentor. She blends ancient wisdom with modern leadership, embodying her role as a medicine woman through transformative coaching for female leaders and entrepreneurs. As a graduate of the Vital program and a collaborator on Vital retreats, she integrates her deep knowledge of psychedelics, somatics, embodiment, rites of passage, and microdosing into her healing work. Rooted in the rich traditions of the Iwi tribe of Ghana, being trauma informed and certified in transformational embodiment coaching, breathwork, EFT, and NLP facilitation. Emeffa's approach is holistic and deeply personal. Her journey from high pressure hospitality management to leadership in somatic coaching underscores her commitment to social good and women's empowerment. Emeffa, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Every time I hear my bio read, right, I feel like I have this experience where I'm seeing myself. I'm like, girl, you're making change in the world.
Mm,
So easy to sort of forget that when you're in the midst of doing the things, right? So thank you for reading that so beautifully. I think it's probably the way you read it too that makes it sound
mm.
so thank you for that. I'm
Yeah, you
excited to
got
be
it.
back here with you.
Yeah, we did a great podcast with Devon Christie a year or so ago. I think that was, yeah, particularly around somatics. So just just before we jump in and have a chit chat with everyone, what's resonating for you at the moment? Like, what's bringing you joy? What are some of the things that you're working on that are really you're excited about, or that you're really kind of investing your energy into at the moment?
That's a really fantastic question. I always ask, you see me touch my chest a lot because it's how I
Mm,
drop into what's present in the moment. It's the right now, what's particularly present for me is I just birthed something new into the world called Rites of Passage, which I feel like it's a culmination of my lineage, my heritage, my life's experiences, what I've seen present for my clients, who are mostly women. But I always say that trauma is equal opportunity. It doesn't really matter who you are, what you do. Trauma always finds a way to invite itself into your home. So in that perspective, um, so yeah, what's present is just like holding delicate and sacred spaces for women as they navigate these usually murky waters of like their life and their leadership. So I say their healership and their leadership, right? Like, how do we bring our full selves into those processes as we go through it? And being the recipient of someone whose life has been literally changed by being held by another person in those uncertain moments, I've seen the power of it in the world, especially when it comes to embodiment and somatics, which I feel like words, how to explain this? They're like Western words for indigenous feelings or indigenous things that just happen. So it's really fascinating to see how things that we do by nature in Ghana, and I'm sure in like other indigenous parts of the country, now there's words to describe them and bring them into how people are living their lives and building out their visions and the things that they're here to do. So that's what's present for me and alive for me today.
beautiful. I'd love us to touch on the rite of passage piece in particular. That's really fascinating, like what that means and how it shows up. Before we do it, MF, I just want to ask you a question about Vital. So you were part of Vital One. You got to come to Costa Rica, which was amazing as a student, and then you came back to be an actual assistant in the retreat as well.
Okay.
So cast your mind back, MF, to before you joined Vital. What what were you hoping to get from Vital? What was your why and the reason for kind of taking that big step?
Mm. I will preface by saying, as is big things that usually happen in my life, I was at a point where I knew that I wanted to do something with psychedelics or medicine, as we usually refer it to. But I didn't know if there was, I didn't know, I hadn't seen anything out in the world that I feel like technology is playing tic-tac-toe with me and my videos a little sluggish. So for those who are watching, give me 1 second. Let me get off and come right back.
You got it.
All right. How about I pass it over to Bill while I troubleshoot on my end and then I'll come back.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
you got it. We'll come back to that
Okay.
question. Thanks, Amifa.
Mhm.
So Bill, I think first of all, I'll read out your bio, and just say that when I used to live in America, you're in New Jersey, right?
I am, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember that being just a bit of reassurance, just knowing that we were in the same state, because it's not filled and blessed with, uh, the richest of people and communities. So it was really nice to see you there, and yeah, we spent every week together for a year.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I was really grateful for what you're doing, and yeah, thank you. You helped me get through living in New Jersey. Just knowing you were there.
There we go. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. All right. So, Bill, I'm going to read out your bio here. So, Bill Anthers is a licensed psychotherapist and special forces veteran who serves clients from a trauma-focused perspective and is trained in multiple evidence-based clinical modalities that include EMDR, AEDP, and IFS. So I really want training in all three of those. They're great. Good stuff. And Bill is also trained in MDMA assisted therapy for PTSD through MAPS Lycos and holds a certificate in psychedelic therapies and integration through Vital. Bill and his wife, Carrie Ann, own and operate Between the Ears, a fitness and mindset company that combines their vast knowledge and experience in fitness, nutrition, and high performance cultures to support clients' physical, mental, and emotional growth. All right, so Bill, what is resonating in your heart and soul today, and what things are really bringing you excitement and kind of determination to go forth and conquer in life?
Hmm. Yeah, that is a great question. I had the benefit of hearing it first, so and then answering second. So, I think for me the word that kind of comes up is just kind of like this notion of openness and openness to evolve. And with that, there's kind of like a splendor to recognizing things can become something more than they are, not from a place of scarcity, but from a place of growth. And and so for me, this blending of the physical and the mental and the emotional and the social is very young and but it's growing, and to watch that grow and to almost feel like riding the wave as it's developing is a very well, frankly, it's new, maybe personally and professionally, but it's exciting and it's felt.
Mm, beautiful. And do you surf, by the way, like in
I
real
wish I
life?
did. No,
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
no.
But it feels like you're literally riding this wave right now, and you're learning and growing and embodying as you're kind of going through life.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Skydiving, there's a when you jump, that's the wave. So maybe
Mm,
I'll tie it back to something I have done, kind of like when you jump out the plane and there's that moment that you're moving and you're in this strange situation in the air, and then you kind of settle in.
mm,
It's tough to describe, but it's what I would
mm.
imagine surfing feels like.
Yeah. Beautiful. I'm going to ask that second question to you now, Bill, and then pop back to you, Method. So the question was, I guess for you, Bill, as a veteran,
Hmm.
as a fitness and wellness instructor, and as a therapist, what were you hoping to get from Vital? What was, in a sense, the goal or the question that you had around stepping into that part of your life?
Yeah, as a veteran, and a therapist and those different things, I've I've been, struggling to find my next mission. And what does service look like? What does the evolution of my service look like? How can I serve in a capacity that's different, not necessarily better or worse, but one that integrates past experiences too. And has been a that's been a tough one for me to find, or create. I think I've tried to create it more than find it. And um, as a result of my own healing as well, and just looking to grow as a human and develop, that's what kind of led me into my first psychedelic experience. And after that, it was extremely difficult. For like the better part of 6 to 8 months, it was not what I would call like a highlight reel type of integration. It was very, very difficult. Um, but there was still this calling within, this voice within of how can I continue to serve? And so that led me to this point of Vital and looking for both more information on trusted providers of education in the field, because that was kind of like there's a lot of information, but not quite a lot of confidence, maybe, in trust. And came across Vital and Psychedelics Today and was like, okay, wow, this seems like very legit. And went into that to hopefully, learn more and continue to be a student because it was such a profound experience. My own journey continues to be that I want to enter the space, but want to do it with ethical education and knowing what I'm getting into and where I should hold and steer clear of. Um, and all that to say that personally Vital came at a very important time that helped integrate and really land the plane for me. And I'm eternally grateful for that, for you, David, for the rest of cohort two. Um, and professionally, I also learned so much, which just like is amazing.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, there's a lot to cover it in 12 months. Like it's drinking out of a fire hose. People say that all the time. And it was that because it's a multidisciplinary course with teachers that coming from completely different ways of life and disciplines and domains and traditions of knowledge. And yeah, we've got so many different touch points that our students are all going through this really intensive journey and supporting each other through it. And then it's a lifelong piece as well. So we've got our alumni program, which has meetings every few weeks and webinars as well, and our circle platform where we still chat. So I love that it's not just that 12-month and then you're gone. It's like, in a sense, that's almost the rite of passage. The people that make it to the end, okay, we're part of the Vital family now. And what do we do next? Okay. And there's loads of people collaborating, like doing projects, businesses together, or just organizing monthly meetups, especially in places like California and Colorado. They're really active community there. So Mefa, back to you. So back in the old days, when you were thinking about Vital in our first cohort, yeah, just take it from the top. Yeah, where were you and kind of what was it that you were really feeling like you wanted to kind of do next and how could Vital help with that?
So I say that April, Bill, when you were speaking, I was like, I'm so glad we were the guinea pigs, the experimental ones, to give enough social proof for the second the second cohort to take it. Because I mean, for a first-time program, I felt like it was very well done. And that was one of the things that drew me to it. That and the fact that I think I've said this before on our podcast, the access that was created for it, because I say that I don't find a lot of people that are like me with my intersectionalities that are in the space at the forefront of it, maybe underground. So one of the things that I loved about it was the scholarship option, which I was the recipient of, and just how well-rounded the program was for me. So backtrack, I had a near-death experience in December of 20 due to COVID. And then I had my first psilocybin like mushroom experience in April of 21. And I experienced the power of a sitter. And I thought to myself, I was like, okay, because you was training to become a shaman. And I was like, wait, there are people that train to do this? Because back home, you just do it. Like somehow it's like a rite of passage that's passed down to you. They just teach you the things you watch as you're going. I was like, okay, I want to be able to do that. So part of my integration, which as I look back, it was much longer than I thought it was. I thought it was done in like a couple of months, but I think there might still be something happening until like I had my second journey. But I remember leaving that experience and it became very, very clear to me what I was here to do. It sort of affirmed what I had to do, what I realized to be true after the near-death experience, which is I'm here to serve women, right? I say that I'm method agnostic, which is why I have so many tools. It depends on what is needed for the person in front of me. And psychedelics just like shifted my way. It shifted my experience in a way that I was like, what is this? How do I take this into the world? Like Bill said, ethically, with integrity and with safety, right? It wasn't just like, oh, I can draw my lineage and say I know where I come from and use that medicine. It's like talent and training, right? It's like you can have all the talent, but if you don't have the training or the discipline to execute or use that, then it's not very safe for the person that's on the receiving end. So that was one of my big reasons for joining Vital. It's like, how can I combine what I have naturally with what is taught here, right, in a way to find that bridge and support people in their own journeys without necessarily making it about me. So what Vital taught me was the way to do that. And I loved that we I think we talked about the indigenous perspective. I legitimately didn't join because of the medical part, because I was like, the medical part is too westernized for me. And I also recognize its importance, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, okay, how can I understand why it exists and then pick my lane to follow through? So if I happen to come across someone who wants to work with me for the spiritual aspect, but they're like taking medication or something and they have questions about how does this work, we can get past that first barrier and then get them towards the experience that they're desiring. So I think that's where it's like that's where I found whether I found Vital or Vital found me. We dated for a year, which is fantastic. And we culminated by meeting in person in Costa Rica, which is also amazing because I get to meet all the other people in the cohort and another life-changing experience. And I guess now we're still in each other's orbits, and here we are. So this is one of the dates that I'm sure we'll have in perpetuity. I have no idea why I'm making the dating reference, but it seems to make sense for people.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, no, I take that as a compliment. Thanks, Amefa. I love what you're saying about finding your lane. And quite a lot of what we want to be talking about today is around the kind of professional choices that we have and getting that sense of clarity and building ourselves to be the leaders that we see the potential in. So finding our lane, I love that. And you also mentioned the toolbox as well. And often we think about, oh, I just need another tool, right? I'm adding on these tools. Like what your Bill's got, IFS and EMDR and ADP. And I'm like, oh, I really want those. I don't maybe I'll get there one day. But the thing about psychedelics, I think that the three of us can talk about, it's not necessarily a new tool, it's a new toolbox. It's a new toolbox. It's a new way of interacting with people, of feeling differently and of seeking different means or goals and relationships sometimes. So in a sense, it's a bit of a paradigm shift. The curve moves out rather than just incrementally linear, smaller steps. So questions for you both. I'd love to hear more about your journeys as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as people that, are really stepping into this is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I do it. And this is why I do it. So Mefa, if it's all right, just to start with you, walk us through that piece. Like, what do you do? Like, how do you work with clients? Like, what are some of the ways that, your clients would say, oh yeah, this is what a Mefa does. This is how I feel when I work with a Mefa. So how did you find those skills or how did you nurture that part of you? But first of all, what is it that you actually do with people and help them with?
I have no idea. I jest, but um, so I describe myself for the sake of marketing and for people to understand or recognize what I do as a somatic and embodiment-based women's life and business coach. So my arching vision is to ignite a movement on embodied healership, which comes to the healing personal part of what we do, and embodied leadership, which is how do we lead out of the fullness of who we are as people, right? So those trickle down. What that looks like is whether I'm working with a female leader or entrepreneur healing from something relating to trauma, then the first iteration of my business, that was where a lot of people were coming from, which I believe was a reflection of where I was as a person, which is navigating those like traumatic healing pieces through the body. And then the embodied healership part is now I'm working with female and non-binary entrepreneurs who are trying to build, like sort of make income while they're making impacts. Because most of them are finding that it feels like you have to pick one or the other, right? It's like if you're very strategic and you can think and you can make money, usually you disconnect from your why, your vision, your core values, and no one really teaches you how to weave that into what you're building. So some people build and then they get stuck and then they have to come back and pick that. So I support women who are either extremely intuitive and trust the universe and do not have structures in place. So I help them build foundational structures to help with that. Or the people who have all the structure but do not have any soul with that, like how do we bring more of that and then work from that in between space? Um, and all of it is through the body. We hardly do a lot of talking in our sessions, maybe the first few during the intake. Even in the intake, I take them through like a pathway meditation, which is essentially to tune into you and the possible different versions of you. We're working with the presupposition that what you're desiring, who you're desiring to be, what you're desiring to build has its own essence. So, how do we connect with that essence? Again, back to relationships, right? Most successful relationships are the one where there's two-way communication. So how do we create a two-way communication where the thing you're looking to build, whether it's through psychedelics or whatever that you're trying to build, and you, how do you have a relationship where you co-create that? So most of my sessions, probably 95% of my sessions, work with people through that process of connecting to the essence of the thing, getting information from that, and then how do we create actionable steps for that? And if I was laughing when he said how my clients describe, most of them will be like, I don't know, I just felt something. I didn't think I could actually see things in the ether or visualize anything. I'm not a visualization person, but I could feel, I could sense. And the level of confidence it gives them to move forward with a thing, usually because sometimes cognitively we know, and I'm sure Bill can speak to this, but there's a disconnect between knowing and actually knowing or doing. So I help them close that bridge through tapping into different points of the body, whether it's sensation, visually, all within a safe environment, a safe container. So that's like what I do. I think it also covers who I do it with because I've one of the things that Vital taught me or helped make clear for me, especially when people tap into the power of psychedelics, is I'm not really doing anything. I'm just holding the space and reflecting to people or telling them that there's different options that they can take, different ways to get to where they want to get to, and then give them autonomy to choose which path they want to take. And I think when the saying, when you teach a man how to fish instead of giving him a fish, I believe that I'm here to teach women how to fish so that they can go on and fish. And then if they want to teach other people how to do that as well, provide fish, then that works. And psychedelics help me realize that it's not about me. I'm just a conduit to make it happen. But my role is to build the resources necessary to be able to do that for people. So I know where I end and where they begin.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's quite a sacred job you've got there. Yeah, it really is.
So
Yeah. Awesome to hear how you work with folks. And the body is amazing for so many reasons. And me as a psychotherapist, social worker, like we never covered any of this embodiment stuff, somatics, what is trauma, really deeply, how do we heal? So that's something that I had to learn and stuff that I had to unlearn. But there's something beautiful as well that you're saying, Amefa, and I think Bill might tap into it as well. We could call it the inner healing intelligence. We could also call it intuition or just being connected, attuned, aware, authentically real, different words. And that is how you teach someone to fish in a way, through helping them to feel what it likes to be connected to self and then to be operating from that place. And some people call it like flow state, peak state. So Bill, for you and your work, so you're doing, really interdisciplinary work. It involves a lot of, talk therapy, but yeah, body. And I love what you're doing I know you've got your practice with your wife between the ears,
Mhm.
and you've got this new entity, a new,
Mhm.
very innovative, really awesome um, project and organization called Holotropic Fitness that I want to
Mhm.
hear more about. And just to tell folks watching this, so at the end of the 12 months um, of Vital, the last couple of weeks, each student in the study group that you're in, like a small group of maybe 15 students, two instructors, every student gets maybe 7 or 8 minutes to present his my vital journey, kind of what I've learned, what I've gathered. Here's what I'm moving into next. Here's my website. Here's my business plan. Here's my kind of new clinical protocol of bringing Ayurvedic medicine and cannabis, into my new business, for example. And then Bill turns up and said, "Here's my." I think he did a deck.
Mhm.
Here's what I'm creating around holotropic fitness, and so we were there watching this presentation that Bill gave in 8 minutes, and it was amazing, Bill. Um,
Wow.
the depth that it came from within you, that
Mhm.
vision, that you are the only man in the world that could have done that, that would have thought to do it or build it together in that way. And so, just as a method is a conduit and a channel, so are you. And
Mhm.
so, talk us through the work you do, how you help people, how they feel, when you have helped them. And then I'd love to also hear about this presentation you gave. What is holotropic fitness and how does that fit into the
Mhm.
the craft that you have?
Whew. Wow. Well, thank you. I mean, I'm kind of like, who are you talking about? In the one in one regard. But yeah, so the work I do now, the work I do alongside my wife as well. So I'm a clinical psychotherapist, and we'll do evidence-based talk therapy, different integrative approaches. This is the office I'm in right now. As you can see, it's not a gym. Um, and so that will be working with people, a broad spectrum. It's very, I would say, like traditional mental health model. Um, and some of those folks have, like Amefa was talking about, with kind of where they are. Some you just kind of understand, hey, what's the right tool for the right job? That is the thing with the toolbox too. And I think with that, some people feel, hopefully, they would describe it as very safe, very that they trust that they can be themselves. Like, this is me. If they walk through the door and they sit down here and their experience is that of, hey, this is me. And let's explore that. Um, there's the gym side of things too that we've developed over the years, and that is an approach to really nervous system based fitness in an industry that can be very dogmatic, very territorial, uh, very predatory, I would say. And my wife and I have worked with thousands of people across the world. And I think we show up to that with the same notion of, this is us. This is what we are trying to do for folks. And in the gym, people feel more empowered, they feel more engaged, they feel like, wow, I was someone who absolutely hated going to the gym, and I'm someone now who goes by myself on my own. Our job is, I think, fitness professionals, is to work ourselves out of a job, to no longer be needed. Now, they might want to work with us, and fair enough, but we've done our job if we're no longer needed in the room. And I think we've done a very good job of that. Although it has been lonely. It has been, kind of out in front, and we're not we're not preaching, six packs and performances and those type of surface level things, which are fine. They're okay. Just we're choosing not to go down. There's something wrong with you. We're the solution to that, which then sort of leads to holotropic fitness. And I think that's been an evolution of both therapy, the mental health space, definitely psychedelic informed, and fitness, of course, and this next version of how can we continue to serve. And so with holotropic fitness, we're looking at having drawing inspiration from Stanislav Grof's term holotropic, meaning this movement towards wholeness. And we kind of use that as let's emphasize on the movement piece as well. And from an embodied perspective, from a somatic perspective, we really do change. We have the ability to change our consciousness when we change how our body is experiencing space and time. And with holotropic fitness, we're not necessarily telling people what to do, but we're hoping to equip them with a frame of the world that develops this wholeness, this intuition, this, yes, inner healer, trusting oneself. That's a big thing, especially in the fitness kind of um, fitness environment. And as that came to be, and kind of as that seed was planted and then kind of grew also through Vital, what became clear was like, hey, hold on a second. This is actually a phenomenal approach, or has the potential to be a phenomenal approach for preparation and integration, where people may have felt, unfortunately, due to traumas, this disconnect from the body, from the spirit. So if we can, guide them in the prep work to potentially learn some of these skills, some of these tools, then they go into whatever their journey is going to be. And then how do we make sense of that? How do we follow through with that? How do we perhaps live in a manner that's reverent towards this sacredness of the body? And that's where the model has sort of gone, and it's exciting. Don't know where we'll go with it. But yeah, it's kind of the
Beautiful.
brief.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, so we're talking about preparation integration. So psychedelics is now part of the conversation, folks. So why for both of you do you feel psychedelics in some way, in some form, need to be part of your life in how you help others, in how you deliver a service or help people? What is it about psychedelics you think add something that without them you wouldn't have it?
For me, the first word that comes up is access. And as somebody who can live very comfortably, although scarily, in their mind, psychedelics continue to show me how the perhaps the depth of access requires something that I find very difficult, which is letting go and sort of surrendering and being open to things I don't understand, but that certainly influence and impact me. And I think with the power of psychedelics, obviously done safely and all of good practice and care, teaches such a degree of humility that um, accessing something within yourself, above yourself, whatever it might be, that you you can't get to on your own, because it's not just about like you and your own way of doing things. And um, so for me, I think it's you can't get that. Like it's just something I don't feel like I can really access elsewhere.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, I love the word access and how you're using it there. Beautiful. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think especially as a therapist that's so used to being for me, working in the mind, for me personally, just being in the mind, it's a really beautiful way of accessing other parts of self and of relationships. And as a parent as well, I think since I've been more embodied, it has really helped me be a bit of a better parent and handle like the frustrations and challenges. Like I should probably be tracking it, but I just know on certain ways that I am with my kids, through my use of psychedelics and microdosing, my embodiment, um, my nervous system regulation, I'm a better dad. And if that's
Mm.
all I can do in my life, if I don't make any more money, anything that I am fine with that. I just want to be the best dad I can be. That's literally, and husband too. Um, all right. So Mefa, sorry, that was just a little bit of a David interlude there.
Oh, that
But
was so
what's coming up
beautifully
for you?
said.
Yeah.
I, oh, So how do I feel like it might be a little bit of what Bill said in that, like, especially when I microdose, right? I feel like, and I may have shared this before, I feel like when I do microdose, I operate at the sustainable frequency that I ought to or would like to, as opposed to the frenetic energy that is everyday life. Like if I had to draw a graph of my energy and frequency when I am microdosing or when I do a full dose or when I take a journey, I feel like the graph would be like this going through the day. Without it, I feel like it's like, or it's like this very fast. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like psychedelics in general is a part of my life. It helps me tap into my humanity and my divinity at the same time. It's almost like, I like what Bill said, it's like I access something that is inside me and something that is outside me in a way where while I am embodied and present in my body, I can also observe, I have the capacity to observe myself going through life and sort of make changes real time. So if I notice that my mind or my thoughts or my actions are moving in a certain way, it's almost like, I don't know, I watch too many movies. Like I can almost tap and be like talk to myself, MFI, this is like, how important is this? Is this in alignment with your values? Is this really what you want to spend your time doing? Um, yeah, and I can tell the difference when I do not. My partner says that my voice has a certain vibration to it. That's how he can tell I've microdosed because I'm not screaming, I'm not shouting. I'm just like almost like chilled, but not dull chilled. It's like it's very
Mm.
intentional focus, which is almost like slowing down to speed up. But it's for me, it's just slowing down for the sake of slowing down, right? And to your point, I think if the world was, if we had regulated nervous systems, 99% of our problems would go away. If we took responsibility for our own, well, as regulating our own nervous system, a healed nervous system, I don't think it can be healed entirely, but a moderated or well-regulated nervous system, I feel like we would have the capacity to be self-reflective
Mm.
and self-compassionate, which will pass on to being compassionate towards other people and would give a lot of grace for a lot of the things that we're fighting about, which are really at the core of it. Just because we don't feel safe in our bodies, we don't feel safe in ourselves, we don't feel safe in identity. So, then we pick one of the four ways of like acting when we're triggered. But for me, having psychedelics in my toolbox as something that I can turn to when I've come to the end of myself and I'm like, okay, I can't push past this. I can't push past my brain. I can't push past my body. It just gives me a little bit of an edge to step outside myself and really observe whether where I'm going, what I'm doing is really what I want to.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mefa.
Oh,
Anything you want to add to that, Bill? I see you really enjoying what MF is saying. Anything that's coming up for you around that?
No, it's beautiful and there's a sense of that where it's, not about it's not like, oh, I'm doing this or I'm doing it's not all about me. There's this notion to it. I keep coming back to this humility to it, but maybe there's this grace with it where you're able to do that, but you're not the center of the universe. And it's a very I just like the way you say that.
mm.
And maybe it's a nice question to jump into. And folks, feel free to drop questions in the Q&A box. We've got time to answer those. Um, yeah, I wanted to ask a question around, in a sense, part of what you were just saying, that humility, in a sense, being a kind of a vessel and channel and receiving and slowing down. A little bit of that, it's just getting out of our own way and kind of moving into the flow. So the question I want to ask you is for folks listening and watching the recording, potentially people thinking about joining the Vital program or not, just folks that are thinking, I really want to step up in my career, or I really want to know what to do more in my life, or I want to figure out how do I develop a profession where I can work with people that use psychedelics. Can you give some advice, as well as what we've already shared, for them, for those folks that are wanting to literally take that next step? So wherever you were a couple of years back, to get that confidence, to get that clarity. So in a sense, they're getting out the way, and they're also kind of stepping in and through and forwards.
I have something that I would, and I hadn't actually thought about it until you just asked that and framed that, where the 12 months of Vital, for me at least, now looking at it, did and does have almost the same essence to it that a journey does. And you're not gonna, maybe you will. I did not receive the book of answers and the answer key and the roadmap to live. There was no like, all right, I got it all figured out now. And the
Yeah.
medicine told me or whatever happened. No, not at all. And I think that I have I love that about it because it's not this cheat code. And in a very, at least kind of Western, commercialized, media-driven frenzy about anything, but certainly with this, I've been sensitive to this notion and have had conversations with people where it's just like, yeah, I just need to take mushrooms. And it's like, let's not use it to maybe bypass our own agency to kind of like do the work. And with that, there is an element of trepidation. There is an acknowledgement of a part of you that really just wants the answers, and that's okay. And that's can we hold that part in regard as wanting to serve you and step into an experience where you're not going to be told exactly what to do. When we started Vital, I had no idea, like the whole holotropic fitness thing, even my own clinical practice, even our own experiences with the gym, like there were things that came about as a result of going through Vital. No different than there's things that come about as a result of going through, a psychedelic journey. But it wasn't so directly handed and given. It was the path kind of unfolds before us as we travel down it, but we have to travel down it. Um, and you just don't know unless you do. And that's for those who are sort of on the threshold, I would say, yeah, take that step.
I love that, Bill. I love that you just found those words to put that together. It's beautiful. It really is a rite of passage that you're talking about, and the person stepping into that, yeah, that kind of hero's journey, and not having the answers given to them. Wow. Yeah, Mefa.
This is giving me so much life. That's why I'm smiling because the process that I have for rites of passage, the way it's a combination of like the heroine's journey and how rites of passage typically happens, which is if you think about any superhero movie, right? There's the occult to adventure, which they set forth. There's a separation from what they know into the unknown. They try to like, oh, go fight. Something calls them, right? And they don't know what it is. Sometimes they do know they want to go save someone and they take the step towards the journey. And then at some point, which is the liminality phase, they're too far from home to go back, but they also haven't made it to where they want to get to. So there's that in between space where they're like, well, what do I do now? That liminality, where they're no longer who they used to be, but they also haven't really become who they want to be. So sitting in that space and just like trying to figure out who am I and what do I really want to do, right? And I love how Bill said that. I'll add it. And then there's the final stage, which is the reintegration or the coming back home, which is the part where when we're watching a movie, we're all super excited because they save the person, they come back home, some heroic thing happens for the protagonist that we're all cheering for, right? I see in retrospect now, me joining Vital was the rite of passage for me too, because I got the call to adventure, which is like, you should do this program. I got the separation from my way of life, which was usual. And then during that liminality phase for me, which was hearing about all these things that I didn't really understand, that I thought it was like a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Like it's not, you're not just coming in and like, I love what Bill said, you're not being handed a key. And like, even if you're handed a key, you still have to turn the lock. Well, you have to
Mm.
find the door and turn the lock. But right, in its essence, there's no pre-made thing for you. You have to work for it to work, right? You can't just sit and not have it work for you. So I love the whole that liminality phase of just like learning about how you could do it. And then for me personally, the reintegration phase was that retreat in Costa Rica, because it helped me come back home to myself in ways that I couldn't have done with community. And that's one of the, like, if you're looking for, and whether this is in Vital or just your personal life and you're listening to this, I'll speak directly to you, for you to have found your way to this podcast, whether you're here or this webinar, whether you're here listening live or you happen to find it, something must have happened for you to cross paths with it. So here's the invitation I will give you. What in your life right now, it feels like it's either calling you forth or you're feeling like you need to separate from in order to step into the next version of who you know you can be, right? It could be a job, it could be a relationship, it could be, but what is that thing that you're either feeling a pull towards or feeling a push from, right? And once you have that, I invite you to think about, if you took a step now, what would your life look 12 months from now, if it's the Vital program you're thinking about? What would your life look like? You could be in the same, the time is going to pass anyway. The 12 months is going to pass whether you do something or not. The question is, how do you want to spend those 12 months? Do you want to spend it investing and building a foundation or adding to something that you've already have so that you can enhance it? Or do you want 12 months to come by and be like, dang, I should have done that, or I should have taken that step? If you can get a clear answer to that question, and you know the embodied sense is yes, and then the mind is like, but how do I make it happen? Just jump. Like the rest will figure itself out. And I'm not saying that from a place of privilege or entitlement or thinking that you have it figured out. Whatever the reason is, whether it's the finances, the community, the people, once you set your intention behind this, I'm doing this because I want to be of service to the people around me, it will happen. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Make the jump. And if you have any questions, I told David that I was going to share a gift. I have like a meditation that guides you through the process of sitting with the soul of your intention, your goal, your desire, and having that conversation. And I hope it will help you make a choice in whatever feels like the next, I don't want to say the next sensible choice, the next aligned choice, because sometimes aligned choices are not sensible.
Beautiful. Thanks. And Meth, if you've got that handy, your gift,
Um,
yeah, we'd love to have you share that screen with us.
Absolutely. If technology will work with me. Okay, while we do that, we can play
Ah,
hold
okay.
music or something.
Yeah, I'll jump over to Bill and maybe as a last question, just real quick for both of you before we say toodaloo. There's something about rites of passage we keep talking about today, I've noticed,
Mm.
and retreats as well. And Bill, you've been on retreat, and that's part of what you do as well. So the question is like, what is a retreat, and why is it so beneficial to us? And how can we think of life at home with our normal routine? How can we bring the retreat home to us in New Jersey, in Texas, wherever we are in the world? So without having to go to Costa Rica or Jamaica, even though those are great, like, so why are retreats so special? And how do we bring that feeling home wherever we are? Bill.
Well, I think as Amefa said, it done in community with others is a big part of retreat. I couldn't imagine, for many reasons, I couldn't imagine going on a one-person retreat. And while individual sessions are how many are accessing psychedelics, understood, but the essence of the power, I think, of the retreat, another power of the retreat, you know, really is that you're in community with others and listening and connecting with other stories and people who are similar to you, and people who are vastly different from you. And more, it seems like that's medicine in itself right now. Being with people who are not, you're not their echo, and they're not your echo. Like that's really, I think, healing. And with that, I would say bringing the retreat home, for me at least, um has kind of has kind of been this attempted practice. Some days I do well with it, some days I don't. Of of this thing that came up for me last time was like just marveling in the magnificence of the moment with whatever that is. And if I can marvel in the magnificence of this moment, to include the challenges, to include the joys and the highlight reels, then I think I'm really bringing the retreat home, and being medicine, the psychedelics, whatever it might be, being in that. Um, how you
You're
do
on
that and
fire
different
today. Yeah.
practices, or what? Yeah.
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 No, you're on fire. I love that. You're bringing the retreat home by kind of marveling in the magnificence of this moment. And we
Mm,
can always do that, whatever's going on.
mm.
Beautiful. And yeah, how about you, Mefa, about
That
retreats?
should be
And
on
feel free
a,
to do your screen share as well.
okay. I was
Love to
gonna
see that.
say, Bill, that should be on a mug somewhere. Revel in the
Yeah.
magnificence of the moment. I'm just saying. Oh, yes, I will share my screen. So for those who are watching, you can do that, and I'll be happy to send it to you as well. Um, how do you bring the retreat home to you? There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go far, go alone. If you want to go, I don't remember what it is, but it talks about the power of like achieving something by yourself and achieving something in community. Um,
Mm,
and for me, which is a beautiful way to end this, bringing the retreat home, and Bill and I, since we're both somatic and embodiment based, is how do you bring it into your body? How do you remain present in the now, right? Like, how do
Mm.
you we go to retreats to escape the busyness of our mind, to connect with other people, to be in a space that we typically wouldn't put ourselves, right? There's the change in environment that helps us, the people we spend it with. So if we took the same principles and brought them home, right? What does community look like for you? How do you create community as part of the retreat? That could be friends, it could be people like-minded in a profession around a topic. That could be a retreat. How do you engage in presence in your body where you get out of your mind? Whether it's breathing, moving, dancing, taking a walk, journaling. But what are some practices that you can take to get, those busyness to just slow down a little bit? And that could be its own retreat. Like, what are the scents that you like in these places that you go to, whether it's incense or Palo Santo or whatever it is? How can you bring that felt feeling, that sense into your now? And I think those are really practical ways that you can bring it home to yourself. And if you get the chance to go to a retreat, take it. There's something about a group of people who share space and time and engage in something that will never happen again in the history of time or the future of time, that when they co-create that, once that lives in you and is ebbed into you, it's almost like you can reach back to that and recreate it at home. So that would be the way.
beautiful. Thank you for that screen share. We'll bring the screen back to our three lovely faces before we sign out. This has been great, Bill and Mifa. Just gorgeous. And you hadn't met each other until today. So yeah, well done for riffing. Yeah, there's a lot in common between your work. So thank you. And I do hope that folks listening today and watching the recording feel inspired and feel that they want to accept that challenge of yeah, being accountable to themselves and that kind of mystery and that we all are, and being part of that community is really important. So I just direct folks to Vital. If you are still thinking of applying, hurry up. Applications close September the 3rd. Classes start September the 17th. And yeah, just go to vitalpsychiatraining.com. And yeah, so this has been a moment in time where the three of us talked, and this will never happen again. And thank you. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David and Rafa.